What happens after the 1,000 days ends? Right? Okay, so do we know why it's set for 1,000 days? Anybody? In the beginning it was 600 days. In the beginning it was 600 days, now it's 1,000 days. That time period was basically trying to estimate the longevity of the miners. Because we went from S3s to S5s to S7s, and now we're at S9 miners. So we were trying to estimate how long would it take for these miners to have to be switched out because of new technology. So we started with 600 days, we went to 1,000, went back to 600, now we're just stuck at 1,000. It does not mean that your share in the mining is going to suddenly be gone. Okay? We have a function called repurchase. Right? What are we repurchasing? We're buying fractional shares, not whole shares. We're buying fractional shares of those mining pools, pool 1, 2, and 3. So for investors, when they look at this, they say, oh, okay, so you have a compounding effect. Meaning if I have one full share and it earns 1% over a certain amount of time, if I take that 1%, instead of taking that as profit and put some of it back in, then now I'm using 1.01 to build it, right? So if you notice on your mining page, right, you'll see that every single repurchase has 1,000 days, right? So for me, myself, my first shares have already expired, 1,000 days are done. And it says expired on the top. But if I look to the very bottom, all the fractional shares, the newest ones have 1,000 days. So I still never have to buy any more shares. So it has a perpetual effect because it's compounding. Does that make sense? Because we have repurchases, we're buying more shares. That's why if you look here, for my friend, he no longer has one share working for him. When he bought one share, he had one share, and that was it. But because he's let his mining run, and come on, if you can change that back to where it was, where it should be, 50, 40, 30, then what happens is now he has 1.6 shares running for him. And eventually, once that one share, the first share expires, he still has shares. So let me put it another way. Say these are all the big club members in the world. That's it. Okay? Just us. Which would be great, right? We have a lot of it. Okay. So big club is mining because we have machines. Yes? We must do what with the profit? What do we do with the profit? No. Big club. We share it. Right? So all of us get distributed Bitcoin, depending on our shares. Correct? What if all of us get to the 1,000 days, okay, and all of our first shares expire? We all have what? Partial shares. Does the amount of Bitcoin that Big Club is mining change on the day that they expire? Yeah, no, we're still mining, right? So even if everyone's first whole share expires, you still have shares of the mining pools. Big Club still has to share with all of us the full amount, right? Of what we're mining.
The full amount?
Well, except for...
Like previously, no, right?
Yes, we still have to share with all our members, right? We still take all the profit and share with members. So if all of our members, for example, in this room stay the same, and all we have now are partial shares that used to pay out a small amount, but we still have to share everything that we're making, what happens to those partial shares? In time, they start earning more. Because Big Club no longer has to pay out the full shares, they're all expired, right? So no matter what, we still are making X amount of Bitcoin, and we're still sharing it with X amount of people, no matter what. That makes sense? So even if your full share goes away, right, Big Club no longer has to pay that, but still has to pay to everybody, right? And we all have partial shares. So that means that our partial shares will eventually become more valuable. So I saw that myself. When my first shares expired, my partial shares jumped up. Because now Big Club doesn't have to pay for these full shares. And this was in the news, and I always say this, when you go to Big Club, if you're a new member or old member, if you haven't done it, go to the news, okay, because we're only 30 years old, and just read all the news articles from the beginning. In the beginning, there were very few articles in our back office. If you go to the news, right here, yeah, just click on that. 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, so you see all the news here? There's only 27 articles in 2014, there's 52 and 40 in 2016. Just read them. They're really short. The first ones were very short. You're going to see one news article where it was decided for the benefit of the growing number of people. See, most of the profits were being paid to the earliest members. Okay, because we got in first and we bought a lot of pool shares. Okay, so the new people coming in didn't have as much as we did. So Big Club asked us at the top if we can go ahead and expire our first shares. And at first we're like, oh, we're going to expire our shares. It's not even 1,000 days, right? But then we reasoned on it, and okay, well, Big Club is still making the same amount and growing amount of Bitcoin from hitting the blocks. So now they're going to share it more evenly with everybody, because those top leaders who had all of the full shares would cancel out those shares. They have a lot of partial shares already. And so it created a more balanced payout for everybody. And that's what we did. We sacrificed. We said, okay, that's actually better for everyone. So we expired all of our first shares. Does that make sense? So as we see more of the older members' initial shares expiring, the amount that is paid out to the partial shares goes up a bit. Because Big Club is not earning less in the mining. We're still growing, right? So we still have to share that same amount. Whatever it is each day, we have to share it with everybody in the world who's invested in us. So to answer your question, does your share disappear? No. You have spawned off all these next generation shares, I guess, children of that first share, right? We have hundreds and hundreds of them because every few days we get paid a partial purchase, right? Yeah, they all have 1,000 days left on them too.
I know it's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
But I would like to know, it's going to be less, right, than the full share?
It will be a little bit less.
It will be less, right?
Yes, the number will be less. The number will be less.
It's going to be more.
The number of shares that we have will be less because one goes away, right? But remember, they're still spawning off new partial shares, right? And so even though the number of our shares is less, right, because one is gone, the value of our partial shares now get more. Because Big Club no longer has to give money to these full shares. They're gone, so okay.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, take the same amount of money and give it to those other partial shares. So, in essence, the same amount of money that Big Club is making every day still has to be divided out amongst everybody. Whether they have a full share or it disappears and they have partial shares, they still have to give the same amount out. So Big Club is not now holding, saying, well, we don't have to pay that share. They still have to share what they're mining with everyone. Okay, good question. Anyone else? Yes?
Yes.